Welcome back to another episode of Blatantly Honest with Makaila Nichols. On today's episode, I sat down with David Velde. He is the co-founder of Ketel One Vodka. The Nolet family business of booze has been around since the 1600s. Ketel One was originally started off as a gin. It took some innovation, though, to help develop Ketel One's vodka line. This innovation came in the form of Mr. David Velde. He introduced Ketel One Vodka to the United States and served as president for Nolet Spirits for 13 years. Now, David is using his innovation elsewhere, in the anti-bullying field. I personally met David through a Rotary Club, and well, the rest is history. Thanks for sitting down with me today, David. David, I don't even know where to begin with you because your life has just been exciting in every avenue. So I'll let you pick this one. Where do you want to start?
Well, maybe I was born in Holland and I sailed as a ship's officer, a deck officer for Holland America Line. Everybody knows the cruise line, right? But in those days, we also had half freight, half cruise, half passengers. And ultimately became a port captain for Holland America Line. And from there, I got into the container business, Port of Rotterdam, a big container terminal, ECT, where I became the operating manager for the first container ship, ship number 1. And from there, I went to the Port of Oakland in California and started the first public container terminal, which grew out to 6 container terminals, all kind of big business, a lot of dollars going through there. I got into the aerospace business for a little bit. I owned part of an aerospace company, QMI in Southern California. And from there on, I put my shoulders under the import of Ketel One vodka that I had started together with Carl Nolet Sr. in 1983 under an agreement. And that we signed, and my company, Loctor International, became the first importer of Ketel One vodka. I was president of Ketel One for 13 years, 9 years with my own company being the importer, and then another 4 years that I was the president of Nolet Spirits, which was the company owned by Ketel One, home office really in Schiedam, Holland. And then from there on, after we decided to separate our ways, I started a new company called Van Gogh Vodkas, which are the beautiful design, like Van Gogh painter style bottles with look-through and magnification, etc. Started that in 1997, and I sold that company in 2008, and told my wife that we were retired.
Wow. And now you're working again. Whoever would have thought?
I'm working again, and started to do charity work with the Leesburg High School, which is a poor high school, Central Florida. And we did a lot of charity work with that school. And so the result was that after we worked a couple of years with them, and we did a lot of good to them. We did a lot of good work with them. That the principals started to understand who we are, what we do, and so on, and told me, Dave, I have a problem with bullying in schools, and that is something that is dear to my heart. I wasn't bullied when I went to school in Holland. We didn't do that in those days. But nowadays I've seen the problems with bullying. And I said, well, let me see if I can come up with a program that will work. And that's what we did. Started Pledge Against Bullying program, worked schools, worked other schools as well, started to grow. And then I met a wonderful young lady that said, hey, we can work together. And now it's you and me that are working on the anti-bullying programs through your foundation, which we merged with. And that is obviously growing into a big success, and
yes,
from here. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you just told your whole life story. I love it. Now I gotta dig back. We're gonna go backwards for a little bit to get to where we are today and how you and I are working together. So, what made you decide one day that, hey, I want to go and speak with someone from Ketel One?
Well, I was visiting Holland in, I think it was 1992, with a bunch of my friends, about 6 or 7 of them. And we were invited by the Dutch government, the Queen, to come from the United States as businessmen to Holland to celebrate 200 years relationship between Holland and the United States. Holland has been, well, when the first pilgrims came to the United States, a part of them were Dutch because they left from the port of Rotterdam, and the British part left from Southampton, and they finally got on one ship. And so the Dutch always have been in and around the United States, New Amsterdam, all of these things. And so we were at my sister's house, and she lives close to The Hague, capital of Holland. Her husband is a well-known gynecologist, and so I took my friends with me, and we were served a little Ketel One gin, not vodka, but Ketel One gin, frozen in little shot glasses. And when something is very cold, it goes down very easily. And so suddenly my friend, who was a vice president of Macy's, the clothing store, and he kind of said, you know what? Hey, you're such an entrepreneur. You know what? You import this as a Ketel One vodka in the United States, and Macy's will sell it. So we shook hands. So we had maybe just one little shot glass too many, but we shook hands. Person, if I shake hands, I do it. So no contract necessary. So a friend of mine called the Nolet distillery and said, we have this Dutchman or American Dutchman, whatever you want to call him. And he likes to meet with you. And so they said, can he meet with you on Thursday morning, because he's flying back to the United States on Friday morning with the group back to the West Coast. And the answer was, we have no time on Thursday, but we can meet on Friday. And this is a well-known trick among the Dutch. Make it a little bit difficult. And if you see that they really want to talk to you, they'll postpone their trip. So I saw that right away and said, okay, they want to be serious, but they do not know if they really should be serious. Like some guy is flying by and he wants something. So it's okay, I'll postpone my my flight for Thursday, and I'll fly by myself on Friday, on Saturday. And so I went to visit at the Nolet, knocked on the door, and greeted by Carl Nolet Sr., spoke Dutch. We all spoke Dutch. I speak the language obviously perfectly. And we had a cup of coffee, and I told him that I already had a liquor import agreement with the government, that I was fully licensed, because I was importing a little beer at that time called Lou beer, or lion beer if you translate it, from southern part of Holland. And so I said, I have all the licenses, etc. I can do it. So they said, okay, that's very good. A little bit more talk, everything was wonderful. They said, but we still do not really know who you are. And I said, all right, what can I do about it? So they said, we would like to come to the United States and meet some of your friends. So I told them, I said, in the United States, we do things bigger than we do in Holland. Holland is a tiny country with a lot of people in it. In the United States, the cars are bigger, everything is bigger. And so they said, okay, when can we come? And I said, well, if you come on or about August 5, because every year the day is the same, because that's apple picking parties at my little ranch that I had. So I was in the shipping industry at that time as well. And so I had invited all my friends and relationships and whatever. Every year they come to my apple orchards, and then we pick apples. We make apple fritters and apple juice and apple whatever, and they take apples in their cars with them. And we have 2 bands playing oompa oompa music, and it's just like having a carnival. So on August the 5th, Carl Nolet and Jan Ive, who is an advisor to Carl Nolet, came in their blue suits and white shirts, and they came exactly on time at my gate to the ranch, and exactly will come out in later on, because we have a video clip in which Carl Nolet Sr. Remembers that story of being on time. And so they came, and to be honest, we had, and I counted them because I wanted to make sure, we had 375 people hanging in apple trees, standing on ladders, running around, baking fritters, you name it. all these people were all over the place, and dust and dirt and whatever. So the blue suits didn't fit too well in a farm type setting. But anyway,
No.
go ahead. There are 375 people. Talk to anybody about me or ask questions. Go right ahead. So that evening, when we finally met and everybody was gone, and they decided that yes, I did have a lot of relationships, and yes, everybody did like to work with me, and they appreciated me, and they thought I was a great businessman, etc., etc. So everybody was very happy and said, "Now let's sign an agreement," and that's what we did. So we signed an import agreement that my company, Lukter International, was the importer for Ketel One vodka. We had to make a whole new vodka because the distillery did not have a vodka that complied with the American rules and regulations. What is a vodka? So we had to make a whole new product. I was heavily involved in that. But also we had to do all the filings for the product, i.e. going through laboratory tests, label approvals, government approvals, state approvals, you name it. We had to go through all of that. What was a lot of work. It takes 1 or 2 years to really do all of that if you do it right. So that was the beginning of Ketel One. And in those days, I would say very close to, but I will be speaking every day with Carl Senior on the progress we are making and what was happening. And so, because I wanted him to really know what we did and not run into where does this come from? Or we were partners. We were doing things together. It was family. Carl would come once in a while. Would stay at my house, and we would sit in my hot tub, and we could sit there for hours about all the things that we were going to do. And yeah, that became a very, very close friendship. I would say one of my best friends ever. Yeah.
Wow. So you two just formed this relationship and you're doing business together, and he had a son, I believe, right? That got into the family business?
Yes, I think it was 1992 that Carl Nolet Jr. Came to the United States. His father wanted him to learn export business or import business in a great country like the United States. What does it take? Learn it from the ground up. There is, to my knowledge, no uh, college education that says will make you a distiller and how do you import and export. I don't think that's there. So he came as a young fellow, stayed at my house to learn what we did. I had a guest house on my ranch, and he occupied that for some time. So he was really on his own to stay there. And so he traveled and came back again, etc. So yeah, he was under my wings for quite some time. Yes.
How was that, having a business partner and a family friend, and then basically his son's kind of learning from you? How was that whole experience?
Well, it was very interesting. Obviously, the danger any time in any company in any business, if you have family come in and the younger generation kind of feels that they have certain rights and should get a certain level of respect, but do not know anything yet, is usually difficult for other workers to work with because I'm only here because I'm the son. People on an average say that's a problem. That's it's difficult to say, oh, then you are my boss. My boss doesn't know anything yet. Well, he's still in the learning curve. So you go through that type of a relationship, and then often it comes out that blood is thicker than water. So then exceptions are being made and all of that stuff. So it's difficult to do that right in any company. And there are
Of
many
course,
cases that will show you that. Yes.
definitely.
So
So you have,
he grew up and he moved to Southern California, got married, and had a couple of kids. And I understand that he divorced and uh, he lived his own life. I don't know. I'm not
yeah.
into that.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about. I love hearing your stories with Ketel One and your ingenuity, which I think has really brought you to where you're at in your life today. You were just always thinking of something new and ways to implement it and just really grow, which is so admirable. So, with that being said, what was your most ingenious idea with Ketel One?
Well, there were several because I call a company, any company, is built on what I call pillars of success. It's like a drilling platform in the Gulf of Mexico. that has legs that that platform stands on, and then you have the big platform where everybody works.
Mm-hmm.
Every company has these pillars of success. The first pillar of success we did was create a video of the family story, father to son, 10 generations, three times distilled, etc. Because at that time in the industry, bartenders did not know anything what was in the bottles. If you want to have a whiskey, then he pulls off a whiskey bottle and pours you the whiskey. Now you got whiskey. We wanted to come out and say, no, we want to build a relationship with you. And we only can do that if you know who we are and get you that story, and you certainly start to know something that nobody else did. So we made ambassadors out of the bartenders. So that if you would go to a bar and say, hi, I would like to have a vodka martini. Let me see. The bartender says, hold it. Before you do that, I have a very special vodka. As a matter of fact, that is X years old, from the family, 10 generations, three times distilled. It's very good. You should try it. And obviously the product has to be very good. That started to create a chain of bartenders that started to follow. And by the way, drink after work. Yeah,
Drink the
too.
best stuff.
But now you get a following that buys you because of the image of what the vodka is. We are not necessarily for everybody. We understand it. It's more expensive, but it is great, and people have a reason to ask for it. Why do you drink that? Oh, let me tell you. So that was the principle we started out with. But then later on, the family story, you can tell so long, and then people kind of saying, what else is new? Come on, I've heard that before. What else is new? So at one day is another pillar of success, and to me as an operator was the biggest pillar of success. The other pillars are good pillars, but the real strong pillar was, and it's hard for people to accept this because it's so outside the industry and so outside the box that you're beyond normal and you're being looked at like, really? I got a phone call on a Saturday night sitting at home, and I think I had some liquor people for dinner. And so they phone rings, and I said, okay, folks, sorry, I have to go to the kitchen to pick up the phone. And everybody started laughing and said, oh, Dave, you're crazy. Don't pick up the phone. Saturday night, 9 o'clock. Come on, are you crazy? I said, no, because I have told all the distributors and the bartenders, etc., if you really want to talk to me, you can call me. I live on the West Coast. Be reasonable with your hour. Don't call me at 3 in the morning, because that wouldn't be fair to me. But you can call me on my home phone number. So my home phone rings, and I pick it up, and there's a gentleman on the phone. And he says, are you the owner of the brand? No, I am not the owner of the brand. I'm the president of the company that imports the brand. But in the industry, quite often they call the importer the owner. That's the one that takes the decisions. That's the buck stops there. You don't go overseas to wherever the real owner sits. You are the owner here. So he said, are you the owner? And I said, yeah. He said, I have to tell you something. I'm going to make you a rich man. And I started laughing. And I said, are you from New York? He said, why do you say that? I said, only a New Yorker will call me at 9 o'clock at night. That means midnight over there, but 9 o'clock at night, to tell me that he has a hot tip. And your hot tip is that you're going to make me a rich man. I'm now waiting for the other shoe to drop because you want to sell me some stock that already went out of business,
Yeah.
Go, whatever nonsense. But you got these calling brokers that call you, peddling stock, etc. So he started to laugh. He said, no. He said, I'm not, but I'm going to make you a rich man. I said, all right. I said, are you in the liquor business? He said, no. He said, I'm in the movie business. He said, what you have to do, get yourself a jar of Tomales and take a Ketel One martini with a Tomales, and you will go to heaven. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do that. I appreciate that you tell me this. I had no clue. And I'll follow up on it. And maybe one day you see Tomales. Great. Thank you very much. Good night. Thanks for the tip. And that's it. So I go back to the dining room and said, hey guys, anybody ever heard of Tomales? No. Nobody ever heard of Tomales. Monday morning in the office, I called the ladies in and I said, ladies, if you go shopping, look for Tomales. You want to buy at least one jar of Tomales. What are Tomales? I don't know. So anyway, by the end of the week, finally, one of the employees come back and said, I got a jar of Tomales and purchased it at a Pier 1 store in San Francisco, 10 a.m. in the morning. We open up the jar with the Tomales. And what are tomatoes? Little pickled green tomatoes that look like an olive. They are tomatoes and pickled. And they only grow in Arkansas. So I tasted a little bit of the vodka with the tomale, and I wanted a second one. And everybody goes, oh my God, this is fantastic. Oh my God, this is good. Well, in the industry, what I call the fruit basket, which are the onions and the cherries and whatever at the end of the bar, they're always looking for something new. And the light bulb went on. And I said, I can sell something under the concept of the sizzle and the steak. You're selling the sizzle and they're buying the steak. So I said, wow, I can be a first one dealing with this. How? I do not know. So I said, we're going to get this. So we found out it was Bryant Preserving Company in Elma, Arkansas. I spoke to the owner. The gentleman's name was Steve. He called me Sonny because indeed he was a lot older than I was. And he was really from the South. And so I told him that I want to come over to you. I fly to Elma, Arkansas. Yeah, no, I called Mr. Steve Bryant and I said, I'm coming over. And he indeed picked me up with an old Cadillac. And we landed on some grassland where I think they chased off the cows in the morning to let the little plane land. And I think the cattle came back then again. Anyway, we were in no man's land. And so we were driving, and I said to him, Steve, I said, where am I? It's only land, farmland. And when are we going to see Elma, Arkansas? He said, you just passed it. And I said, what do you mean? He said, didn't you see the gas station on the road? I said, yeah. He said, it was Elma, Arkansas. I said, okay,
So
now you know I was
you're being kidnapped.
Yeah, yeah. Don't get a flat tire or whatever. And so I told him, I said, I'm here and I'm willing to buy your whole plant. And he said, Sonny, you're not going to buy my whole plant. Even we both wanted because you cannot deal with them women in the back. Well, we arrived at his farm and I saw the women in the back in a shed on a belt and they were packing and that were some big women. And I could hear on the chatter that they all were in charge, that type of a thing. And I said, I agree, that's not my forte. I don't want to deal with that. But so after we tasted again the Tomales, etc., and he told me his family story and that his parents had lived in that house, all kind of stories. And so I said, I want to buy your Tomales. He said, you know what? I'll make a deal with you. I like you. He was from the side. He said, I'm just a guy out of California, born in Holland. I'm not a slick guy that's trying to make a deal with you. I'm a nice guy, basically. So I said, I will buy for the next 5 years your total production of Tomales for a good price, because there's a lot of money involved. But I said, I want to buy your whole production. And he said, okay. So I bought for 5 years the whole production. All they had to do is put on the cap on the jars a sticker that says Ketel One vodka and so on. So what we then did is we started to shrink wrap these jars of Tomales to the bottles of Ketel One. And as I said, the sizzle and the steak. Women could buy that bottle with the free olives, what they thought, with the free olive. And if the vodka was okay, that's what they can tell their husband. Instead of the other brand, I bought this one because we got the Tomales for free. Well, the Tomales became really a great program because we made blackboards out of wood, making in my garage on the ranch. I made it Saturdays, Sundays. The whole neighborhood was helping us with making blackboards. And we wrote with a wax pen or a crayon type thing on the wax was that special managers, Ketel One vodka, Tom Olives, the best there is, highly recommended. Anyway, these blackboards, you couldn't clean them off and put something else on it, right?
Yeah.
And they were putting on end caps in the stores. So the wives come in, see this, something special. Oh, really? It's from the manager. Oh, I might as well buy it. So A, I got end caps in the first place. And the second thing, they made everybody wanted it, and some of the retailers even upped the price a little bit. But on the on-premise, the restaurant and bar business, the bartenders had a story to tell about Ketel One. But not only that, they could say, we have the only Tomales there are. There's no other drinks available than only with Ketel One. So the Ketel One Tomales Martini became a success. Why did it become a success? Not only did the bartender had a story to tell, he got a bigger tip.
Yep.
And that bartender is standing there to earn money. And the more money he can make, the bigger friends he becomes. So we started to spread like crazy. And it came to a point at that time that I was more concerned about production, getting the bottles into the United States and getting the Tomales matched up, than sales. Sales were going by themselves.
Yeah, you didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, and that to me was the biggest liquor-related pillar that made Ketel One as, wow, we better get that. So restaurants would call and say, Mr. Van der Velde, I have enough Ketel One vodka, but I ran out of Tomales. And my always answer was, well, pour, we call that pouring off. That means serve all the other vodkas on your back bar and replace them with Ketel One bottles, and you have more Tomales.
Put him
So
in the corner.
put them in the corner, and that's what they did. And that's what they did. That's why the Tomales story, I think, is one of the biggest pillars of success to get off the ground. Don't forget, we were coming off the ground, fighting against all these big brands, Absolute, Stoli, Smirnoff, Grey Goose was around, whatever. As a matter of fact, Grey Goose is the one that tried to copy us with colored cherries, and that didn't work.
Wow.
So they lost it. As a matter of fact, here is an article that is still on the internet available. And that article was written about my Tomales theory and how I did it. And it says how an olive launched a brand. And there is a lot of truth in that. And I still work with this same concept today and the philosophy behind the concept because it is successful. And that's a separate story that I can tell you what I'm doing with it now, but it's based on that same philosophy.
Sure, let's hear about it.
Oh, you want to hear about it?
Of course.
Well, you know a lot about it because you have a rocket that is going to the moon.
Yes, it's a blessing.
Yes. And, you know, I was the one that bought the rocket and the space on the rocket and donated it.
You so kindly donated it to me.
And we merged, and so now you have a rocket going to the moon. But we are offering, or we are going to offer, a program that spirits, beer and wine and spirits manufacturers or suppliers, as we call it, or distributors, can make a deal with us and have the first vodka or the first bourbon or whatever on the moon before.
Imagine those bragging rights and the PR and the marketing.
And not only that, you can take a selfie with in a bar, for example, with a martini, which whatever brand martini that is, and you have to show a little slip that says that you're drinking whatever vodka that is. And that picture with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your parents, your kids, your friends, your dog, whatever. That picture will go to the moon, stay on the moon forever, and you get a certificate coming back that says that you are on the Cargo Manifest, and you're also invited to see the launching of the rocket live stream on the internet as well. We have 2 rockets going up, one in December that goes into space and comes back. We might even have a small bottle of a spirit going with that. That will be then physically the only vodka that ever was in space with your liquor label on it and even your fingerprints. And the other one is the one that's going to the moon in 2022. And we will have a lot of your anti-bullying programs on it and school kids and et cetera, as well as other programs we do. And one of them is the beer, wine, and spirits program. To me, under the same philosophy of how an olive launched a brand, I now call it how the moon supports whatever vodka or bourbon.
And it looks like you have an original bottle of Tom Olives behind you. Is that right? Is that what I see? Yep, the green one.
The green one is the one, and then
Yep.
you see two Ketel One bottles on the left, and
Yeah.
those two bottles were the first bottles of Ketel One to come into the country, and they have the name of my company as importer on the back, still printed on it.
Wow.
A lot of people have offered me a lot of money for those bottles, but
No, you
I
have to
have
hold on to those.
yes. Yes.
For a rainy day, right?
As a
Forever and
matter of
ever.
fact, if you looked at it, there's also a decanter sitting there that says Ketel One. It's the one that is next to the Tomales and the other bottles there.
Yeah,
And
what's the story behind that?
this decanter was a gift of the distillery to me in 1993, 10 years Ketel One vodka, with a huge celebration in Holland with in the distillery with speeches and promises and we love you and a Oompa band playing and a big dinner and whatever. And that decanter was the one that was given to me 10 years Ketel One. And now it holds the fountain pen that we signed the contract with for becoming the importer of the Ketel One program. So, yeah, there is a history there you cannot wipe out, right?
No, no. History is important and should
Correct,
be acknowledged.
correct, correct.
So, speaking of history, I know for all the people watching that are going to see the cute teddy bear playing the drums in the back.
Oh,
What
a
is the
little teddy
story
bear.
with that guy?
And that little teddy bear, I got in, actually, it was in Kyoto, Japan, but I got a phone call from my vice president in Tokyo, Mr. Nagase, who said, you have to come to Tokyo now. And I said, I just came back from Europe. And I said, gee, no, now. Northwest Orient plane now. Good. So I go to Tokyo not knowing why, or I had no papers with me. I thought they were going to talk about rates for the Japanese cars we handled. We were the major transport company for Honda automobiles. And so I had nothing with me. I don't know why I'm going. So I arrive in Tokyo and I see my vice president of the office there picked me up and he said, I am going to bring you tomorrow morning to a big automobile show. And I said, okay, but I'm not here to see an automobile show. I mean, I can see those Detroit or wherever, New York. He said, no, very important, very important. Okay, so the next morning we drive, or had a cab, I think, to wherever that huge auto display was. And all the brands cars were there, from Mercedes and Ford to you name it, and then all the Japanese cars, huge. So we go in there, and I was impressed right away because there was a big red carpet that went to the far end of the building. And when a salesman sold a car, any brand, anywhere, that salesman then would come down the red carpet, all the lights, the salesman comes down that red carpet, and in the middle of the show was a huge drum. And he would come to this drum, hit the sticks, and went boom, 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 boom. And the whole crowd, there were thousands of people at that show, would cheer and yell and scream and hooray and whatever. That little salesman became the biggest salesman on the floor there, because look at me, thousands of people are cheering me on and whatever. That was a motivator. That was, for these guys, was really something. I want to come that red carpet down the aisle and then hit that big drum and people cheer and so on. It was a fantastic program for them. So I was impressed with that idea. Anyway, I being asked to come a little bit further, and that was the Honda section where all the Honda cars were. And in the back there, a little bit elevated, was an old gentleman standing. And I met the president of Honda USA, who I knew very well. And he said, hey, Dave, I'm going to introduce you to Mr. Honda. And I said, whoa, you should have told me that. I maybe would have had some different clothes on or whatever. He said, no, Mr. Honda wants to meet you. Now, why does Mr. Honda, the big Mr. Honda, want to meet the little guy from California, right? So I go there, and little potbelly as we have, I approach him and I bow and he bows. Well, he was so skinny, he was like this. So he snaps down. Well, you try to do that because the deeper you bow, the more respect you have for the other. But he is a little fat boy from California who cannot bow as deep as Mr. Honda. So you take a step forward, and you bow again, and you step forward, and you bow again. And he kept also bowing. And I thought by myself, well, I look like a fool for these Japanese, but I try hard. So Mr. Honda then said to me, you are the best transport operating company in the world. And therefore, I make you Ichiban for Honda Company. Ichiban means number one. Everybody pays respect for Ichiban. If Ichiban wants something, it is being done as what Ichiban says. So he makes a very nice speech to me, and I thank him, and I promise him that I will be the best operator there is, and so on. And so I will send you present. And I thought maybe I get a gold cross pen or so in the mail, whatever. So I bow again, step backwards, bow again, step backward. So when I finally was off the red carpet, I told the president USA for Honda, I said, hey, Jack, what does this all mean? Oh, he said, now from now on, Honda number one customer. I said, yeah, you are. So that means when Honda ship comes in, there's always a berth available to dock the ship. There always will be longshoremen available to unload the cars. Cars will be handled with less damage than anywhere else. Dispatch, and he went on and on and on, because you're Ichiban. You have best for Honda in your mind. Best for Honda in your mind. But if you tell me that the price to handle a car is $20, I will not fight you because you are Ichiban. But Ichiban has to get the best possible price. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh man, I said, I got nailed, right? So we laughed about it, and so it was funny. 2 weeks later, in the front office, a whole bunch of Japanese fellows, including Jack, the vice president, the president of Honda USA, there. And so I asked Jack, I said, why didn't you call me? Because then I arranged hotel, dinner, whatever. Oh, very special. He said, present from Mr. Honda. Oh, there comes the present. Outside, among all these, maybe 20 Japanese, they all were bowing at me because I was Ichiban. Oh, you bow to Ichiban. Funny. And so there's a Honda Accord. That Honda Accord was 2 years ahead of what was being imported at that time. That was their future car. For example, it had 17 speakers in it. At least in mine. And I said,
we need 17 speakers.
Yeah, we've never had that. So I go around the car, touch the car, sitting and oh, thank you very much. Was flown in the night before on Nippon Airways freight. So can you imagine what that cost? And so I thanked him very much, and what am I say? So he then said to me, VIN number. And I said, VIN number. I said, you mean VIN number? Yeah. I thought, okay, PQR 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever these numbers are, right? Mm-hmm. The little plate up there. And I said, okay, VIN number. Yeah, the car has a VIN number. No. VIN number. And I said, all right. So I went to the VIN number and looked at it again. I had to look at it again. That was my name. My name was the VIN number. That car was built specially for me. Had been done months in advance already, because every bumper, every fender, everything, as they have a number in it, that was my name. So that car now is very special, right? Yeah. And obviously I thank Mr. Honda and all of that stuff. But it was a proud moment to be recognized for something because we were the best in the world. And
of course.
I have always done it with all the business I did. I want to be the best.
And I think you are. I think everything you're doing is just incredible. And your stories, and you have just, from knowing you in the short time that I have and just being able to work with you, has just been exciting. I always learn something from you every day. So every day. And just when I think I can't learn something else, nope. And your stories are just incredible. And you should write a book someday if you're not already.
We are planning to write a book about my life in which I will go through all my experiences, my feelings, and what happened to me, and the good things in doing business, but there are also bad things in doing business.
Of course.
And so, how far can you trust your friends, and how far can you deal with all of that? And a lot of people give up and walk away from it. You have to be kind of a strong personality to bite through all of that. But we know business is tough and rough, right? There's always a competitor breathing in your neck. So
This is true. This is
we
true.
now know.
Well, so we have a lot of exciting stuff coming up, you and I, with the Blatantly Honest Foundation and our merger and the space launches and our programming, which we're so excited about. So, as always, I always have the guests take us out of the episode and say, be bold, be you, and be blatantly honest. You want to take us out?
Yes, thank you very much for interviewing me. I told you the other day my luckiest day in life was when I married my wife. And my second luckiest day, I think, is meeting you. So we're building up a great responsibility. And I hope that I can help you for you to succeed in your um, anti-bullying, etc. Programs you do. And again, it will not be easy. Business is business. But I wish you all the best. And I also hope that you're going to work with me a little bit on our beer, wine, and spirits efforts, which are going to be another Tomales story in the liquor industry. Just find a hole and fill
it. Your favorite quote.
My favorite quote: find that hole and fill it. And I found a hole again, and we're going to fill it again.
I love it.
Thank you so much. Good luck. And we'll see you, I'm sure, in the near future.